What up? What up? Now, I got to say this first because I'm a conscious visual person, but it looked like there was a blemish or something on my nose, and I saw it in my live video the other day. I don't know what it is because when I look in the mirror and I'm not on a camera live, it's not there. So I don't know if it's lighting or what, but neither here nor there. I just came from the doctor about like maybe 2 hours ago. Got bad allergies. Like when I was on live the other day, I was saying I was congested and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, bad allergies, all that kind of fun stuff. But got my medicine. I'm doing better. Staying hydrated. Getting ready for the Dodgers game tonight. Step one of a three-step gentleman sweep that we're gonna do here in LA. Not going back to Toronto. And we can clip that, mark that, say you heard it here first. It's a done deal. Okay. Anyway, let the haters hate, and the rest of us congratulate. All right, man. All right, so, whew, let me just speak my piece because I can. I want to, and I can, and I'm going to. So, man, as somebody who I've said this a million times, I'll say it again. As somebody who was fortunate enough to play on a family relative's 2600 Atari system, playing games like Pitfall, Asteroids. I don't remember many other games, but it was a huge big deal. Like I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. It wasn't something that I could have or afford. Like I think we at one point we had a game at home where it was just a turning knob thing where you played basically like the I forget what that game is called, but it's just a ball going from one side of the screen to the other, and you just move these things up and down. Like that was what we had, and then when the 7800 came out, I was able to get a 7800 because I would imagine prices were going down and things were becoming more affordable for for more people. And so I was blessed to get that for my birthday. I was probably around like 9 or 10 when I got the Atari 7800, I think. And I love that. The controller was like this, where it had two buttons on the side and a knob in the middle. And Pole Position 2 is probably one of my favorite games. It's also Joust. Basically, a lot of 2600 games. It was the Atari 7800. It was just better graphics, I guess, more colors. But yeah, Pole Position and Joust were two things that come to my mind as far as that I enjoyed playing. I probably had other games I can't remember. Um, Man, it cracks me up. Like I wonder whatever even happened to that console because I definitely don't remember. That's crazy. Anyway, after that, I had a friend that had a Nintendo. I was able to play Nintendo at his house, and then eventually, once the price went down, and the year that they had the PlayStation, um, the regular PlayStation console with the two controllers was 79.99. The action set that came with the Duck Hunt game and Mario was 99.99, and then there was the Power set which had the Power Pad, and you had the Olympic game or whatever where you can run on the pads. That was that was 150. Yeah, it was 150. Anyway, I got the action set, being conscious of my mom's pockets, and started having my fun. And Nintendo was great. Started renting games from the local, video game place where you can rent games from, because didn't have, a bunch of money to get games all the time. I had some games or whatever, but back in those days, it was you easily wore out your games because you played them all the time. Um, so you would just, rent a game here and there to see if you like it or whatever. I don't know if you really rented games before you bought them though. Generally speaking, you kind of, for me, from my memory, based on my memory, I think I knew if there was a game I really wanted to buy, I was like that game was on my radar to get around the time it came out. And maybe it's just me, but for some reason, I think the games came out around the holidays, um, more so than how they eventually started coming out at all times during the year. But again, my memory isn't really there, but maybe it was considered that when a game came out, regardless of when it came out during the year, back in those days, late '80s, early '90s, late '80s actually, it made sense that you only got the game for your birthday or for Christmas. Like you were not expected to get a game during any other time of the year unless you got like some good grades on a report card and things were good or whatever. Or maybe you saved up money cutting grass or something, or had an allowance, or somebody was just blessing you and your mom let you get it. Or maybe the game was only was a reasonable price or something like that, because I really don't even remember how much regular Nintendo games cost. I don't remember how much uh, Super Nintendo games cost. uh, but yeah, so eventually I got a Super Nintendo, and I think I had a Super Nintendo going into college. So I had I probably got my regular Nintendo somewhere probably between middle, like elementary to junior high, somewhere in there. Um, I probably have to look at the years that these systems came out, and that would help me kind of line it up. But yeah, Super Nintendo definitely kept me, or I had a Super Nintendo going all the way to uh, college. I had friends that had a Sega Genesis. I played Sega over at their house. I loved the graphics. I loved the games. I loved Golden Axe was one of my favorite games. Altered Beast I didn't get to play too much of, but I liked what I saw. Sonic I liked, but it was just okay. Like meaning there was a lot of hype around Sonic because it was an icon. It was like a big deal, but playing Sonic versus playing Mario, it was just I felt like I could play Mario longer than Sonic. Like Sonic, I would play for so long, and then I'd be like, yeah, okay. And again, that's just because again I didn't have a Sega Genesis, so I wasn't forced to be in a situation where I get to sit down and master the game, and then therefore really enjoy it. Um, it was just like, okay, I have limited time. How much fun can I get out of it in that time or whatever? But yeah, I mean, Sonic was fun. But again, the games that really shout out to me, oh, Shinobi. Ooh, yeah, Shinobi I love. Uh, Shinobi, Golden Axe. Shinobi and Golden Axe are probably the two things that like really just had my attention, or that I really wanted. Like, man, I wish those were on Nintendo, would be something I would have been thinking or said at that time. Um, but yeah, so Super Nintendo um, took me to college. Um, I didn't take like so I was on campus. I didn't take the system with me, obviously, or not obviously, but when you're going to college, the priority is education. So it's not playing games. So it wasn't until I got kind of got through the first year and started having some progress to where I was able to take the system and play with me and my roommate, because he played games too. Um, but I don't think he had a console. I'm not sure. But anyway, but I eventually working at school or whatever, and I probably was making no more than 525, 550 an hour. Eventually saved up and bought. I mean, I saved up prior to it even coming out, but when the Nintendo 64 came out, when it was announced, when it was like the whole lead up and build up to it, I knew I was getting a Nintendo 64, and $200 saved up, bought it, had Mario 64, and played that thing, enjoyed it to the nth power. Like that was the first 3D Mario game, and there were so many cool things about it. The music was amazing. To this day, that music still gets people, I'm sure. Just like Ocarina of Time with Zelda, like the music of the Nintendo 64 with Mario and Zelda are classic to this day. The games themselves are classic to this day. I can just hear in my ear just now that on Zelda, but yeah, those were some groundbreaking, game-changing times for gaming as a whole, but especially as a Nintendo game console player. Um, and I would say prior to that, yeah, go some years back during the Nintendo, or yeah, Nintendo Super Nintendo days. I had a friend that had a Nintendo. I mean, had a TurboGrafx 16. Had arcades and other stuff in his house. That's another story. But and then a cousin who had like the Neo Geo or some other gaming system, so or ColecoVision or something. So I got a chance to see other things, and some play some other games too. But yeah, um, and it's very interesting that I don't recall whether or not the guy who had the TurboGrafx 16 in the arcades, whether or not he had a Nintendo system or not, which was really weird. Just because he could have had anything he wanted, he could have had every game system there was, but it wasn't. Gaming gaming as a whole was not the priority for them, of course, because they were smart. But and not smart in that sense, but I mean their parents were probably smart in making sure they understood that none of this stuff is where you put your focus, time, and energy into. So anyway, so Nintendo 64, college, fast forward, other people were into PlayStation while I was in the Nintendo 64. And that's when PlayStation was having its big run because people were like, it's on a CD, so many more options, blah, blah, blah. They preferred the controller, they preferred whatever. But I stayed with Nintendo. I liked my Nintendo 64 and kept it at that. After graduating from college and working and doing everything else, I wasn't really playing games much. I still played Nintendo 64 from time to time, but really wasn't prioritizing gaming. I was able to jump into um, what I wanted to do in life, which was being a performer and dancer. I was on tour. I was in LA. So I moved to LA from St. Louis, Missouri. Toured and did some good things, videos, commercials, etc., etc. And around that time, I was like, I don't know how I ended up even thinking about getting a PlayStation 2, but for some reason, I must have walked into Game Crazy. It was a Game Crazy near where I lived. That was the name of this game store. It actually was a chain too, but yeah, Game Crazy was really cool. I definitely preferred Game Crazy over GameStop and over KB Toys or any other game place. And they were actually next door to a video rental place. Gosh, it's crazy to think that those places went away um, so long ago. But yeah, so Game Crazy. I started looking into stuff, and the PS2 I guess had been out for at least a year. And when I made up my mind to get it, and it was, so the price made sense to me, it was reasonable, and there were so many games I was able to get with it because I was able to get these used games. And I got easily probably like close to 10 games when I bought a system. That was crazy. Like, like unless you're rich, you don't ever consider, at least for me, not from where I was coming from, where you get a game system and you get 10 games. Like, what? Like, generally, when a system come out, they don't even have 10 good games anyway. So the fact that I waited, I was able to get a brand new system, something I've never experienced before, never had a PlayStation before, and to get that system and get all these great games with it, like I was overindulged, like to the nth power. Like it was a good thing. And by the time the 360 and the PS3 came out, I had no interest in Xbox because I knew a kid that had an Xbox, the first Xbox, and it was actually a girl. Like her dad got it for her for her birthday or Christmas or something, and so I did check it out. But I was just like, from what I understood and from what I had heard and known, because I kept my ears to the gaming environment, that it wasn't for kids, and this was a young girl, and I'm like, this dad got it for her because it was probably what he wanted, but it just didn't appeal to me. Um, and I think part of it was I might have had my own reasons for why, but for whatever reason, Xbox didn't appeal to me. I went with the PS2. And again, I had no history with PlayStation, had no affinity to it or anything, but went with the PS2. Love that experience to the nth power. To this day, I still put my PS2 experience even over the Nintendo 64 strictly because of how many games I was able to play on it versus the Nintendo 64. Zelda and Mario, hands down, best new console experience, but that was it. I had to wait so long before I found another game that I loved, which was Killer Instinct. And I had to pay $74 for it. I'm pretty sure $75. Um, and but with PlayStation 2, I got a good deal on the system and was able to start off with 10 games. So I never, I didn't get bored at all. Like I was able to enjoy 10 games for so long that I probably bought a new game before I even exhausted the 10 games that I started with. so so it was just yeah, hands down PS2 best gaming experience. I did play PC games in college. Quake, Unreal Tournament, Doom. Wasn't a big fan of Doom. Quake I liked better, and Unreal Tournament was even better than that. Unreal Tournament in the '90s was the equivalent of what people deal with Call of Duty today. Even though Call of Duty, even during the PS3 era, I want to say PS3 era, PS3 maybe even PS4, definitely is when Call of Duty when they started adding like you could play with bots, but you could also like just the fact that you got to the point where you get so many kills and you're able to have all these extra things and items or whatever, and you call a radar or call help and all that. When that stuff first came into being, that was the highlight for Call of Duty for sure, hands down. And of course, the campaigns were always nice too. Um, I did enjoy that time, but I was never somebody who just eat, sleep, and breathe online play or multiplayer. I enjoyed it, but it was never like my live, eat, sleep, and breathe thing. And I think part of the reason for that was probably because I never had a group of people that was what they did. Because I imagine most people, because they had that community aspect of it, it was something that collectively they did together. That's why a lot of people got Xbox because all these other people have an Xbox, so I got to play with them. I want to play with them. I'm gonna do Xbox. I never had that scenario. Um, I mean, when I first got the Xbox 360 Elite, I did have that option or I did have that availability with some people I worked with. But even then, everybody wasn't always on the same time because we worked different shifts at the job. We had a 12-hour shift job. So some days you were sleeping while they were working and vice versa. So you didn't always, mix at the right time. So and again, somebody was always online, so you could find other people to play with. But it was just for me hit or miss, schedule and life wise. Um, so that's why my 360 experience, even though it was good, it was short lived. There was nothing that tied me to the system outside of that season of when it was good, and because I didn't get my Xbox 360 fixed when it got the red light of death. I don't know how I missed the memo when I went to the game store. They didn't tell me that it could be fixed and this, that, and the third. So, you know, donezo. So went on with the PS4 eventually, and even when I got the PS4, I got that late. I didn't get that when it first came out. I got it. I think. Why did I get a PS4? I want to say I got a PS4 around the time that my daughter wanted to play Disney Infinity and bought all the characters because I was in the Marvel at the time and the Marvel movies and all that kind of stuff. That was our thing, going to see the Marvel movies and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, progression to this, that, and the third. And then all that's over. PS5's coming out. And for whatever reason, again, my ears were very in tune to even the talk of the new systems and everything. And and that's how I got um, into the conversation when I was online under somebody's video, and people were talking crap like Xbox is going to mop the floor with PlayStation. They have the more powerful console. Blah 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 blah. And I now realize that I fell for it because realistically, now hindsight being 2020, that small box of conversation under this one video or even a few videos that I watched, those conversations under those videos was the small circle. It wasn't the large platform of everywhere. But even though it was a small circle, it was a small circle that was representative of the whole. So that small conversation definitely happened in other places outside of my experience, and they were all similar. And I just thought it was really bothersome to see people with huge platforms tell so many lies, talk so much crap, um, from the fan base of Xbox, um, only to end up with egg on their face and then never take accountability, never admit to them being wrong, never admit to being liars or trolls or whatever. And then for it to even go further than that, to you seeing executives of a company, in the case of Xbox, actually kind of supporting these lies and this fake narrative that they were something that they were not, that they did something that they never did. Um, and then as I watched more and more YouTube videos pulling receipts from Xbox company as a whole of the lies they've told about their other games and other things that they promised they would never do and they didn't, and just all their whole history, for me, literally highlighted and showcased, wait a minute, Leon, you have seen this before and you actually know about Microsoft as a company when you were selling computers back in the 90s. Microsoft has always been a capitalistic, monopolizing entity that was a thief and a liar and did things illegally to get what they wanted. So seeing that Xbox is just a piece of fruit off of the tree of Microsoft, it's never going to be any different. You can't be, it's not like a human being where it has its own ability to make decisions opposite of its parent. In business, you are connected to your parent and you do what the parent tells you to do. Make money. Make money. But the games, we don't care about no games. Make the money. Make the money. Okay, well, buy me all these companies and I'll make you money. Okay, I'll buy all these companies. Now, make some money. They're not buying it. Not my fault. Make some games. Make some games. Make some money. I'm sorry, I said make some games. Make some money. Because Xbox don't care about games. Make some money. They want good games. We don't care. Make money. So, literally, that was what was going on. And I saw it for what it was, but it was frustrating to see people with YouTube platinum plaques and all this kind of crap who've done nothing but lie to people, and they have all these people in their comment section agreeing, like, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, are these people real? Like, are these bots or something or trolls? But unfortunately, realistically, even though there might be some bots, even though there might be some trolls, there are some people who literally are so mentally that they actually think that Sony is no different than Microsoft or Xbox as a company, which is a lie. Pause. Oh, gosh. This is frustrating. Um, like, Sony is definitely not Microsoft. They never have been. They never will be. They didn't, Sony as a company did not, jeez. Sorry, you don't normally see that in videos I watch. But Sony as a company did not start off or, come from a foundation of theft. Matter of fact, in the gaming space, they came from being played. Nintendo played them because Sony had made the CD part that was supposed to be an addition to the Nintendo 64, which I was looking forward to. As I already mentioned, my affinity for the Nintendo 64. And then Nintendo screwed Sony and went with Philips. Sony was like, okay, bet, we make a PlayStation. Boom, got you. So that was how Sony started off. And people thought that Sony, when they did the PS3 rollout and the $600 price tag and this, that, and the third, it was like, oh, Sony got arrogant. Sony got this, that, and the third. They feeling themselves because of all the success they have with the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2. They think they're too big to fail, blah, 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 blah. Whether or not any of that is true or not, I disagree with the narrative of how that's communicated, because when you really consider at that time what the PS3, especially that first model PS3, what it was giving you for the $600 price tag, they were still taking a loss. So they were giving you bang for your buck. The problem became the fact that the people had problems developing games for it because I'm gonna just keep it real. They weren't smart enough. Let me say that again. They weren't smart enough. But you're not a developer. You're not a this. You're not a that. I don't have to be. The fact that the PS3 to this day and that first generation PS3 to this day is still considered a value to this day, and the games on there that people want to play that they can't even re-emulate well to this day speaks to the volumes of the quality and the advancement of that technology, and the fact that if it's not so hard or difficult, you should be able to recreate it. So anyway, developers weren't smart enough. They were lazy. And why would you say lazy? That's talking about somebody's character. How are they lazy? Well, let's just look at the facts. Look at all the other games being made. Now, if it's not the developers themselves, it's the companies and the people that have rule over them that tell them how they want to make the games. And we want this game yesterday and not 2 years from now, not 10 years from now. We want it yesterday. So we're going to throw everything at it that we can because we want you to make this deadline. We don't care if the game is fun. We don't care if the game plays well, if it has bugs. We can patch it later. Just get this out so we can make our money. Do you not understand that you're not going to make your money if the game is crap? So, again, which is why, when it was all said and done, you look at the whole ecosystem of the PS3 and the games that came out during that era, and you compare it to the competition, when it was all said and done, the PS3 still had better games. The PS3 had your God of War. The PS3 had your The Last of Us. The PS3 had games that people had not seen on that level with that quality, but the PS3 provided that. So again, Sony might have made some bad choices in how they did certain things, but unfortunately, some things were out of their control. The fact that people had trouble making games for the PS3 is not Sony's fault. Say what you want to say. It wasn't their fault. Sony themselves still made the good games. The publishers and companies that were under their belt as first-party Sony games still did their job. So you can't knock that. So from PS2 to PS3 to PS4 and now PS5, when it's all said and done, while people out here talking fake stuff about, oh, you don't have no games. No, we have games, Joker. We have games and they're actually fun and good, and we play them and we enjoy them. So, but while the so-called competition is steady making stuff like Starfield, which I watched a whole probably 45 minutes to an hour video of somebody who literally did like a parody of his time playing Starfield. So he played it, beat it, made a whole parody story behind it that basically said how stupid the game was. And his parody was more entertaining than if I had played the game myself. So, for the record, there are talented people in this world that don't make games. There are talented people and intelligent people in this world that don't develop for games. Everybody's not the same, but it doesn't diminish the individual. Because the same things that I have said, I have heard other people say. Speaking of which, other people that used to work for Microsoft, other people that worked for Xbox has said the same thing that me and other people have said. So what does that mean? For some of you special people, it means it validates our opinion and what we say. And yet you still have some so-called Xbox fans that sound like delusional idiots, steady trying to act like their opinion is more valid than what somebody like myself would say. But yet what I say, somebody who worked at Microsoft, somebody who worked for Xbox says the same thing. But I said it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. So, again, when people try to come for me or come at me in the comment section, and you can see, like here it is, 30 minutes I've been talking. If I said 2 minutes of what I've said, it would be this long in a chat. Just open up a notepad in your phone and put on voice to text and then say a paragraph or something. And you will see how you could almost say next to nothing and it'll be this long. So when you actually want to make your point, it might be like this. And then people be like, oh, look at all this stuff he typed. Oh, like he's smart. He's not smart because he typed a lot. Blah, idiot. Really, bro? I'm sorry that your reading and comprehension is on the level of the attention span of a TikTok scroller. I can't help you. Your immaturity is not my problem. Your lack of understanding is not my problem. And your lack of articulation or intellect of verbiage in your language is not my problem either. I'm sorry that I like to have discussions and talk about things that make sense and make sense when I'm talking. It is what it is. So anyway, um, I say all that to say, honestly, I've said what I've said. I'm gonna end with these two. I want to say two things. We'll see how it goes. One, three things. One, the whole fan base thing. Sony fanboy, Xbox fanboy, console warring, this, that, and the third. I'm so sick of the narratives of trying to act like it's immature, trying to act like it's something that's stupid, trying to act like whatever you're trying to act like. I've heard people articulate the articulate and define where it comes from. Somebody who has invested their time and money and had life experiences in a environment, in a industry or experience, there's nothing wrong with supporting it, wanting it to succeed, and championing it and defending it. Nothing wrong with it. You're not immature for it. There's not something wrong with you for it, like intellectually. Now, are there extremes? Yes, there are extremes on every level. There are extremes in politics, there are extremes in sports, there are extremes even for people who work a job. There are extremes with people with their family and how they have personal relationships. There are extremes where people are have unhealthy responses and unhealthy practices in how they operate and live life. So it's not any different than any other experience in life. But what is not right is how you try to vilify and take one aspect or experience of life and try to demean it as if it's not valid. Not going to play those games. Um, so that's the first thing. Second thing, this whole notion of all games should be on every platform. That's stupid. Stupid. I'm gonna tell you why in just a moment. As I blow my nose, let me mute. Okay, you can see red, congestion, puffy, all this kind of stuff is bad. Anyway, so do you believe that you should be able to go to McDonald's and buy Chinese food? Do you think you should be able to go to McDonald's and buy a Whopper? You want to go to McDonald's and get lobster and shrimp. You want to go to McDonald's and get Popeye's chicken. You want to be able to go to Wingstop and get Mexican food. You feel like you should be able to go to Wendy's and get a Big Mac. You feel that you should be able to go to Six Flags and see Mickey Mouse. You think you should be able to go to Disney World and see everything at Universal Studios. That's better for the consumer, right? Could you imagine a place that had everything? Could you imagine a couple things right off the bat? Because I'm here in California. I know what it looks like going to Universal Studios that I now have a season pass for, and what it's like going to Disneyland, and what it's like going to Knott's Berry Farm, and what it's like going to Six Flags. Six Flags, Knott's Berry Farm, Universal Studios, Disneyland. I know what it's like. SeaWorld. I know what it's like going to these places. If everything they had was all at one place, you wouldn't want to go. You would not want to go. Not only that, would you imagine that they would not be able to give you the quality and the value of one or any of those things that you would get if it was specialized in one place? So again, I don't think I need to berate that one anymore for the intelligent people. It doesn't take much to understand that that is a stupid, stupid, brainwashed way of thinking and opinion. To think that You should be able to play Mario games on your Xbox. You should be able to play PlayStation games on your Xbox. No, you shouldn't. No, you should play Mario and Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, Xbox. Just because your game doesn't make good games and it sucks and it goes away, too bad, so sad, we don't care. And for all those, so that's two. Three, for all those who think that Xbox leaving is a bad thing because, oh, that means Sony is just going to do whatever they want. Joker, get a brain. Have you ever been somewhere and you saw a restaurant close or leave? Like, again, the fast food scenario. If McDonald's is on the corner and on one corner and there are three other corners, and there's a Burger King, Wendy's, and a Jack in the Box on the other corners, and they all leave, is McDonald's going to all of a sudden raise their prices? Is McDonald's going to all of a sudden start making crappy food and change how they've been providing food? Is McDonald's going to all of a sudden stop not having the specials that they were having before? Now, as far as the special part, I can't speak on it for sure. But let me just say this. If you honestly think that McDonald's, or in this case, Sony PlayStation, would be able to keep their fan base and keep making money when they stop providing you the quality and the experience you were getting before, oh my gosh. If you think that Sony would still be able to have a successful business if they stop providing the quality that their fan base and their customer base that provides them with the money to succeed as a business, if you think that they can start providing less and asking for more, like Nintendo, and that's going to go well long term, you're stupid. And that's probably why you're an Xbox fan. Not saying that you are, but because some of these people who say this crap are PlayStation fans and just gaming fans in general. You are stupid if you think that Sony is going to all of a sudden raise their prices just because Xbox is gone. You think that all of a sudden Sony's not going to give you the best game that they can give you just because Xbox is gone. You are stupid. I know that's not even right to say or not nice to say. No, you're stupid. I'm going to say it to your face. You stupid. You have stupid thinking. Because how can you how can you improve as a company? How can you make more money if you're not doing, look, when you got in business, when Sony got in business and started making PlayStations, was there an Xbox? Was there a Microsoft? No, there was not. They weren't there. So they know that if they want to do well, they have to continue to do well. Nintendo, case in point, Nintendo with Nintendo Switch 2, they're the ones being stupid by raising the price of the Switch 2 and by raising the price of their games and by giving you a code and not even supporting physical media when Nintendo for 40 years plus has been the front runner for trying to keep their proprietary media. So you think that Nintendo Switch 2 is going to do well? I guarantee you, and you can clip this, I guarantee you Nintendo Switch 2 will do less and have less success than the first Switch because of their greedy practices by raising the price of their games, by raising the price of the console, $500 for something like you're charging as much as a PlayStation 5 for technology and graphics that equate to the PlayStation 4 and before. You're already seeing the blowback with the Pokemon game. So anyway, so you guys can continue to think what you want to think and be stupid if you want, but the end of Xbox as a console maker means absolutely nothing. I wish they had never bought Bethesda or Activision, Blizzard, King, whatever, because Xbox as a company, Microsoft Xbox as a company has never done well with other studios. Never. They've never taken one thing and made it better. Never. Sony, on the other hand, you can look at the companies like Insomniac and all the other companies that they have partnered with or comes under their umbrella. When they got them, they were good, but with Sony, they became better and produced better games and products for the customer. You've never seen that with Microsoft Xbox. Never. So why would you allow a bad manager to manage a product? Or why would you allow a bad company with a bad track history to purchase all these other companies and entities and developers, and then do nothing with it or fail at doing literally anything positive with it? But that's what you guys get. No different than people voting Republican and for Trump. So you get what you get. So, so us being done with Microsoft, Xbox, just like being done with Trump when that happens, it's never a bad thing. It will never be a bad thing. It's not a bad thing now. It won't be a bad thing later. And to be honest, when you have something that's bad, you want it to go away. So then it makes room for something better. Somebody else, another company could come into the place of Microsoft Xbox, or Microsoft Xbox could just focus on making the games, because for the last 15, 20 years, they haven't made good games. They've made mid-tier games. So maybe they'll actually make a good game. Maybe. But good riddance. Good riddance. There is nothing to be sad about Xbox going. The only sad thing is for the people who invested their time, finances, and energy into that ecosystem, and believing all the lies, and listening to grifters and liars who were souping your heads up, making you look real delusional, with everything that they were saying. So, but hey, even that's not too bad, because at least you learned, hopefully you learned, and you make better choices and decisions going forward. That's it. So, and if you like to play games, play games. Nintendo, Sony, even your Xbox, PC, whatever. Have fun. I'm gonna do that too. In an hour, we gonna have some Dodgers playing and getting another win toward the back-to-back World Series. Other than that, let me keep getting his nose from running and get better. I'll take it easy.